Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sandy Talk Sheet. We have Leah and we have Justin, and we are ready to answer your questions. Welcome. How are you guys doing tonight?
Pretty good. Can't complain.
Good so
We
far.
good, good. Look, first of all, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on the show. Cause shit, I'd rather be asleep right now, but that's just how it is.
Some of us were drinking wine before this.
Good. You guys deserve it because you guys, man. Let me tell you right now, you guys have a difficult job. Let's just put that right on out there. You guys deal with difficult things, difficult topics. This is my co-host that's supposed to be on. I don't know why he's saying good evening, but hello and thank you. I don't know where you are. And look at him, so excited to watch tonight. Perfect. I'm a little miffed. I'm a little miffed, but we can talk about that later. So anyway, guys, you are on Sandy Talk Sheet where I'll explain it to you. So I am a shit talker, but talk sheet really is like the sheet that covers the dead body because I'm all about true crime. So that's kind of where that came from. Are you guys true crime junkies?
I
Yes,
was watching Criminal Minds before this, so yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
we are.
Welcome, welcome, my people. Welcome, welcome to the circle of trust. So anyway, tonight we have Leah and we have Justin. We'll start with you, Leah. Tell us a little bit about you, just kind of personal, and then we'll not like as much personal as you want to tell us.
So I just bought a house in Lubbock. It's been horrible. I hate my whole life. I've been moving. It's the worst thing I've ever done. I say that every time I move.
Yes.
I have 3 rescue dogs. They are no longer rescues. They think they're damn purebred. Like they don't give a shit about a shit. It's all about them, not about anybody else.
Yes.
They kind of rule my household and me. I'm a big wine connoisseur. We English knew some all day in this office.
Look at
That's
this.
kind
People are already talking shit. We just got on here just like Sandy and all this wine. Hello, Chon. Thanks for being on here. Hi, Echo. Welcome. But same. Justin, tell us a little bit about you.
Justin, I work with Leah. I also live in Lubbock. Just makes it easier to work together that way. I'm not as outgoing or as talkative as Leah is, but we'll talk shit to her at least.
Yes, but you made it on, and that's what's most
Yes.
important. Okay, so whoever wants to take this over, tell me a little bit about the organization that you work for, what you guys do, all that good stuff.
So we're with Legal Aid Society of Lubbock. We're right across from the courthouse. We are kind of the local experts on protective orders and domestic violence. We do the majority of the protective orders in Lubbock. We also service 14 surrounding counties as well.
Okay.
I travel to those rural counties, and Justin helps out, and the other attorneys in our organization. We try to make our whole goal with legal aid is to give people access to the courts who wouldn't normally get that.
Okay.
We partner with WPS a lot. We get a lot of our clients from WPS where we have a deference in our application process and everything like that for domestic violence victims. We deal with domestic violence victims all day, every day, sexual assault victims, child sexual assault, child abuse. That's what we do. That's our bread and butter. That's what our heart is, and that's where we go for that.
How long have you
Okay.
been there, Leann?
Girl, it was 3 years on May 1st. And that could be why I love the wine. Could be.
I think it's evident right now.
So, so where did you develop, I'm assuming, a passion for this?
So I had no idea. I've never been in a domestic violence relationship. Um, I've never really got my hands on it. But when I started at this organization, it was so difficult learning how to deal with domestic violence victims. I've never seen a population that more underplays what has happened. That the typical indicators for domestic violence in our office is downplaying, not wanting to talk about it, not feeling safe, apologizing all the time. Um,
finding
And then-
excuses for it a lot.
Yeah, and slight manipulation sometimes because they've learned from the best, the most narcissistic personalities.
Right.
I would like to say that domestic violence hardly ever starts with a punch to the face. Domestic violence always starts emotionally, verbally. They get you to your lowest point, and that's when they strike or rape you or anything like that.
It's very much a cycle that happens, and you're going to get the amount of times I've written it started off lovey-dovey, things were fantastic and great, and then it slowly came into control out of love. Like, I don't want you to go there. I'm concerned about you. I don't want you to wear that. I don't know what's going to happen to you. Well, I don't want you talking to him. I don't know what his intentions are.
And then once they cut you off, they can then assume all of the control. So we see all types, all sorts. Domestic violence doesn't come in a neat, pretty package. There's indicators, but there's nothing that says, okay, this person didn't indicate anything and they're not a survivor. That's not what that is at all.
And a lot of the time, after they do get you alone and isolated, that's when the physical abuse or whatever else, other kind of abuse it maybe starts. And then they get this kind of withdrawn period. They'll kind of back away, so they feel isolated and alone even further. And an overpowering showering of love and affection again. Like back to that original, how it was from before. So I think it's going to be okay again. He's not going to hurt me again. He's not going to hit me again. Whatever else.
But not only that, too, they isolate you from having a job, so you don't have any money. They're the sole breadwinners. I mean, there's so many things that these manipulative personalities have done to make it
to have the environment that they're in.
Yeah,
and that's
where they thrive in that environment.
Absolutely.
So let's just say, for example, like in a typical domestic violence situation, the guy has a pattern, right? Would you say the guy has a pattern? We'll just start with male offenders. Would they have a pattern of abuse? We'll just say like they've hit this relationship, they've hit this girl in a relationship, or do they just start out of the blue hitting people like this new girlfriend?
So typically, there is no such thing as a typical domestic violence. That's why it's such a difficult area of law, is because it's not typical. You have to listen on a case-by-case basis and figure out what's going on. But I will say, in our experience, most of the time, it wasn't just a one-off. They just loved this girl so much they beat the shit out of her. It's more like, okay, he maybe slapped around a girlfriend before, maybe got arrested one time before, and it's a continuing process.
Okay. So before we get any deeper, is there like a way to define domestic violence? Is there like a small definition of domestic violence?
So I think domestic violence also covers sexual assaults.
Okay.
Domestic violence as a whole covers all sorts of abuse. Legal domestic violence is a little bit different.
Okay.
In Lubbock, we are a more conservative population, and so there has to be hands-on physical violence or sexual assault for us to be able to get a protective order.
Okay.
But I think the bigger term of domestic violence is any type of behavior or action that insults or hurts a partner. So domestic violence covers dating relationships, familial relationships, marriages, all that sort of stuff. But domestic violence is about people living in your home or people who have lived in your home.
Okay.
Domestic violence isn't you assaulting your neighbor. Domestic violence is all about domestic in the home.
Okay.
And Leah, you read this case more than I did, so chime in here if I get this wrong. But the law in Texas, at least, is also starting to recognize more verbal abuse as well for things like divorces, recognizing how that can tear people down and destroy them mentally and things like that, and starting to count it more and use that in divorce cases for uneven distributions for in the final decrees and things like that.
So does that mean, like, do you see the law changing and encompassing more when it comes to domestic violence?
In the bigger picture, yes.
Slowly but surely.
But
things like the groping statute, I think that was 2019, 2018.
Okay,
so
what's
the
that?
groping statute in Texas is when you unwantingly touch the genital area of either party. So that can be breasts, that can be, what you classically think of as genitals. We had a case not too long ago where a man grabbed a woman's breast.
Mm-hmm.
That we got a protective order on the groping statute on that.
Okay.
And
I
it's
take it
also
these were like husband and wife.
No.
no.
So
This was a stranger who crawled in through the window.
Oh my God.
sexual assault does not have to be a domestic situation in the house, whatever the case may be.
Oh, okay.
Domestic or sexual assault is anything sexual. And that's under the penal code, which is a little bit different than straight up domestic violence like hitting, slapping, punching, choking, etc. So they're
Gotcha.
two different areas of law, but they all fall under the domestic violence area that we work in. So the
Real
groping
quick,
statute.
you work together and at the same place, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So okay, I thought Leann, you were one place, and maybe Justin, you were a different law. So I just wanted to make sure. I must have missed something earlier. So
That's okay.
No.
sorry, Leann. Go ahead.
No, that's so the groping statute falls under the sexual assault area of domestic violence. And
Okay.
it doesn't have to be familial, boyfriend, girlfriend. It covers anybody.
Gotcha.
And so today, and the reason that we're on this show is most everybody knows this Amber Heard and Johnny Depp case has thrust domestic violence into a spotlight, because typically domestic violence month is what, like October, I believe.
Yes.
And so, but the thing is like this, a lot of stuff is coming to light, especially for me, because like I kind of told Leah earlier, like I'm not into Hollywood. I don't follow anything Hollywood. I had no idea that this was even going on. Jamie was the one who told me there's a court case going on. And so that's how I started following this. But listening to some of the stuff today, it's like, man, this has been going, like these hashtags have been going on since like 13. I can't even remember what year. And so, but anyway, the whole that even intrigued me was the fact that a man actually said, I am a victim of abuse. And to me, it's just like wow, like good on you for speaking out. Let's see how the world sees that. And right now, the world is actually watching this case. If you've paid attention, we've been in the comments, I've been watching the comments. I'm actually watching like Law and Crime on YouTube, and there is like everybody is on there. And for the most part, everybody's like on Depp's side, as far as like, we do believe that he truly is a victim of Amber Heard, and that's just based on testimony and things that we've seen. And so the thing about it is, society norms, it's not normal for a man to come out and say, hey, I've gotten beat up by a woman. And that makes me sad. And that makes me really sad, because kind of like we talked about, the whole Me Too movement gave women empowerment and the thing to come out. And then here we have a woman that's trying to be an ambassador, but yet maybe maliciously misrepresenting the fact that she was a victim when she was a perpetrator of abuse. I mean, there's still a lot to be said for that. But I mean, how do you guys feel about that?
So let me throw some statistics out, because I think
Okay.
that's very important. We live in the state of Texas. The Texas Council on Family Violence has put statistics out there about abusers and things like that. It's still almost over 80% of domestic violence victims are women.
Okay.
Deaths and homicides on domestic violence, it's still 90% women,
Okay.
5% men, and then 5% same sex in a estimate. But going to the Texas Council on Family Violence will give you hard statistics. Now, that being said, domestic violence is so underreported. Even the numbers we do have are not even close to being accurate about the type and breadth and brevity of domestic violence that's going on just in the state of Texas. So I would hazard to guess the Texas Council on Family Violence says 48% of domestic violence victims come forward. I can't even imagine that is even close to the actual statistic, because there's just no way that you can measure something that people don't report.
Right.
There's also a statistic out there saying that, well, 10 years ago, it took women 7 cycles of domestic violence to actually report and get away from their abuser. We've got a little better in those 10 years. Now it's 5 cycles, and they will hopefully get out. But again, that's just an average.
What can you define cycle?
So a cycle would be she gets hit, he gets nice, she forgives him, and it starts over.
Okay.
It's just generally, and Justin can attest to this, when we write our affidavits for protective orders, they get in an argument, he gets physical, he apologizes, he does what he needs to, she doesn't report it, and on it goes.
Okay.
And a lot of protective orders we do, they think we can't actually help them or do anything because they did not make a police report at the time. They think that because they didn't report it to the police, nothing can happen, that they're stuck there like it never happened.
That is 100% false. There is nothing that says that you have to report the abuse you suffered for it to matter. That's one of our big things at the office. Like, you matter. You matter enough to us that we don't want you to go back in this situation where you could possibly die. Because, believe it or not, it could only take 5 cycles for him to literally kill you.
Right.
Don't die. Come see us. Even if you're not ready to go, we're not here to judge you. Come see us. Let's talk it out.
And yeah, that's what I've been talking with Leann and Justin, both of you talking. And one of the things that's come up is like people have talked about how like Johnny had never had any previous, there was
history.
no alerts. There's no, thank you, Sandy. No history of previous abuse in any of his relationships. And one of the things that I've understood, and correct me or not, but no one has to technically have a history of abuse or being domestically violent in order for this time to happen, and they fall. And essentially what I'm saying is Johnny may not have had any previous domestic violence cases with his previous partners, but with this one, everything that's being reported or on testimony, everything, he absolutely has.
Right.
I believe he has. I believe he's physically abused Amber.
And see, that's perfectly fine. I think, honestly, nobody's going to know what's happened in this relationship except for those two. Everybody else can speculate. Here's my problem, and Justin and I have talked about this in the office while, in between cases and we're trying to do our stuff, is Amber Heard has a documented case of domestic violence against her ex-girlfriend.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I believe that lends itself to her being the abuser more. Because you can talk all the shit you want about Johnny Depp, but he doesn't have a documented case. Amber Heard has a documented case. Let me ask you this. How bad did the abuse get before that her ex-girlfriend reported it to the police? Because I guarantee you it's never the first hit or the first strike where it's reported.
Right. And so I was telling you earlier when we were talking, I was a victim several years ago of domestic violence. And kind of like I've told Jamie, I didn't tell a soul. I didn't tell my mama. I didn't tell my siblings. I didn't tell my best friends. Nobody knew that. I kept that shit to myself. And I would tell myself, you got yourself in this mess, you get yourself out. So there is no record. There is nothing. I didn't take pictures. I didn't take anything, any evidence whatsoever. So if I had decided like I was going to say something, it was going to be my word against his. And so I just decided I'm going to go at this alone, which is what I did.
100% of the time, we take cases like that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But your testimony to the jury about what actually happened is more powerful than you could ever imagine. I think that Justin and I have done this job so much, we can tell when somebody goes to court and they're nervous or they're crazy and they're acting crazy. It's because and we hear this from clients all the time, he won. He wins all the time. I never win.
Right.
I don't know if I'm going to win this. I'm like, girl, I'm right here. We're going to go win. No, I don't. I mean, I'm going to do it, but I just don't believe it. And then we get to the end of the hearing. We won. She got that 2-year protective order. She's like, can't believe you believed me. I can't believe that just happened. This is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Because not only do you get some protection, but also your attorney and a judge were 100%. You might not have reported, you might not have recorded injuries, but we believe you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference.
Gotcha. So let me add. Okay, so we've got some questions coming in. So Carrie wants to know: does Texas protect anyone who was extremely provoked then snapped? For example, Party A saying hit me, do it," while pushing, throwing bottles, etc. Then Party B snaps and throws a bottle back.
So criminally, which we don't really deal with, so I can't speak to that matter. But civilly, there's no way we can get you a protective order in Lubbock. Now, the laws in Texas say one thing, but what you're actually going to get in court is another thing. Words, according to what we see in our judges and things like that, is words are words.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't physically hit you. Why'd you physically hit him? Now, again, the verbal, and everybody understands what happened. Everybody understands you were pushed. But the best situation, or the best answer to that situation, is walk away. I mean,
Right.
that's what I tell you. I can't get you a protective order in that in Lubbock. And that's what I can speak to.
Gotcha. So she also says, let me piggyback on my previous question. Does Texas protect a domestic violence victim who has suffered major abuse, then snaps one night and kills their abuser on a night they aren't abusive just to get away?
So that's going to be a defense to murder. We would hope it never got there. We have had cases where it never got to the point of murder, but the victim started fighting back, and then they both go to jail or something like that. And it just depends. Again, we meet with every protective order client who comes through our office. We talk to them. We sit down. We learn their story. We learn what they do. But we also know our judges and what the limit of the law is. So it's a case by case basis. There's nothing to say, hey, if you come in with this, I can 100% get you a protective order.
Right, right.
I don't know. But I think there are criminal protections for abused women. I think we've seen that in the past. But I don't think that we've actually seen that on the civil side. Because, again, protective orders are civil until they're violated, and then they're criminal. And so it's quasi-criminal, but only if you violate it. So
Gotcha.
we deal in the civil realm.
So okay, so this is kind of what I wanted. This is one of my questions that I had. So the whole point when I go to you and say I'm a victim of abuse, what is the process to help me, and what is my ultimate goal with you?
So that is what you tell us. What do you want?
Okay.
Do you want a protective order? Do you want to just be left alone and get moved past this? We don't stop at the law. We will refer you to any service we think will benefit you. So counseling.
Okay.
Counseling is a huge thing. Getting domestic violence victims' self-esteem raised back to where they can look you in the eye is always one of my favorite things. When they come back to the office, maybe a couple months later, and they stare you in the eye, whereas you've never seen their eyeballs before, because they just can't look you in the eye. So how the process goes, we will evaluate you for a protective order, but we don't stop there. We do safety planning, teaching you how to be safe in your home, teaching you what to look for if he starts driving by. Call the cops, don't hesitate. But at the same token, get into some counseling so that when you're ready to get into a healthy relationship, you know what your triggers are and you know what you're looking for, so maybe you can get in a healthy relationship next time.
Okay.
And
So
Justin, can y'all tell us a little bit? I'm sorry, Cindy.
no, go
Just
ahead.
to give a little bit of examples, because I appreciate what you're saying, but I think sometimes when people watch, they hear the big words, they hear the umbrella, but they don't really see what's under it, kind of whatever.
Okay.
I work in practicals, put it that way.
Yeah, that's
So
fine.
what does it mean when you say, like, we'll walk you through, and I hear counseling too, and protective measures and safety and all that
So
kind of stuff.
if you come into my office and you say, we live together, I'm afraid he's going to break in. Justin taught me this. There are 2-inch screws you can get. On the door jamb, take out the small screws that are in your door jamb and put those 2-inch screws in, because that makes it hard for them to kick your door in. The other thing Justin got right was the wasp spray. I have to say it very slowly because I jumble it all together. But when you hit somebody with pepper spray in close range, it's going to affect you just as much as it's going to affect them.
Mm-hmm.
So wasp spray shoots up to how many feet is it, Justin? I think it's...
You're muted, Justin.
Yeah. I think it's either 3 to 5 feet. And it doesn't burn your eyeballs. It just burns theirs. So aim for the eyes, right? And they're cheap. What we're telling you is things that we would do ourselves or anybody could afford. Like it takes $4 to get a can of wasp spray and those 2-inch nails. Do that all around your doors. Do the wasp spray in every room to make you feel safe. But at the same token, the best thing you can do for yourself is get a Ring doorbell camera. Doesn't have to be the name brand, just a camera so you can see who's coming onto your property and off your property. We've gotten so many protective orders with Ring doorbell footage because you can't prove he's coming by your house or anything. But when you got that Ring doorbell camera, we see everything, right?
Yeah.
We can see when he drives by. We can see when he's come up to your door and left you flowers in a 1 a.m. situation. We can see that.
Weird, but it makes sense. So I appreciate that. So that's a very good practical because, I think, again, it goes back. So when we watch these kind of things and as we're talking about it, when you have someone who's in it and it's talking, and we only got an hour here, so it's kind of good to hear some of those practicals and figure out what it means, because that's something that people, even not in it, like you don't have to wait for something like that. Like if you're telling us about the screws and the door and ring, we can do that now. We don't have to wait for any kind of violence to happen in the house.
And here's the other thing: you don't have to come to me when you're ready to get out of the relationship. You can come to me when you're in the middle of it. I'm not here to judge you. I don't walk in your shoes. I get to go home and play with my dogs. You have to live in that situation. You come to me and you're like, I'm not ready to leave yet, but he does X, Y, and Z to me. I don't know if I can get away. We can talk about practical little ways to do that. So like, okay, you get your paycheck. How about you get your own private bank account, start squirreling money away? So when you're ready. Well, he doesn't hit me unless he's drinking. Okay, why don't you pour all the alcohol out and replace it with soda or water? There's little things you can do until you're ready. Until you're ready to go.
So
that's so hard because I'm sorry, Sandy, go ahead. I've interrupted
go ahead.
you twice.
No, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
Okay, so Leann, is that what it is,
yes.
right? Okay, Leann. So one of the things that I've heard people say, and my wife is a therapist. Actually, she graduated from Texas Tech. She used to work for the Children's Advocacy Center there.
Oh, awesome!
Many years ago, and so one of the things that I've heard people talk about is like. And it's comments. A lot of people don't understand how domestic violence really works, and sometimes we're looking on the outside. But you hear commonly phrased or whatever, like, "Hey, if they really want, I don't know why they're staying in there. If they really want it out, they could get out." It's just any kind of terms related to that.
There are two phrases I think that you say that hurt victims of domestic violence the most. Girl, why didn't you leave? Number one. I made that mistake on my first domestic violence case. That's not your place. The best thing you can say to somebody with domestic violence who is a victim of domestic violence, sexual assault, I'm here. If you need me, I'm not going to say a word. You just tell me what you need to tell me. Get it off your chest. I got you. The second one is, if you really wanted to leave, you would have. So I think you deserve that ass beating. They don't do that second part, but that's what is implied. You don't know. One of the biggest things that they found with victims of domestic violence, the reason they won't leave is because they can't feed themselves or their kids when they leave. Who are you to tell somebody it's time to leave? You don't know what the hell's going on in that house. Right. You don't know what they're dealing with. Those are the two, I believe those are the two most hurtful comments you can make. Like, if you don't understand domestic violence, just don't say anything.
Well, and in all fairness, the thing about it is we are faced with the situation of, if you've not been in that situation, you don't know what to say and you want to say something. Right. So, going back, I think Jamie said this for my benefit. I told Jamie, Amber is in a different situation than if I was in a domestic violence situation. She can't afford to go to a hotel. Yes. Some of us cannot afford to go to a hotel when we were in that situation.
So things Justin pointed out was she is the most she is her class type. She's an actress. She makes all this money. She could have got out as quickly as possible. Justin talked about a flight that she took from London to Australia to go see Johnny Depp on his movie set. Mm-hmm. Well, instead of making that flight, she could have gone to the hotel room. Here's my thing. and I say this because I can't help it, I'm an attorney. If she is a victim of domestic violence, she had more resources at her disposal than most people who go through domestic violence.
And that's what I've been screaming. She has all the resources. She has all the friends. Even if those are paid yes people, you have those people available to you. At some point, at me, I use up all of my resources, all of my support system because they're tired of me calling and saying, "Hey, this is what's happening to me."
And you hear that all the time. Family members, well, she won't talk to me anymore because she's tired of hearing me get hit. She's tired of hearing me talk about how he hurts me and XYZ. And it is hard for people who are on the
outside.
end. But, you know, it's okay. I think it's okay for people to cut other people out of their lives. There's some things that you're not willing to watch. That's their choice. That's their life. But here's the bottom line. You got to deal with what you deal with, right?
Right.
I agree with
By
that.
the time the second or third hitting comes, they know where they can go to get away from it. They're just not ready. And that's okay. That's okay. People have to do things in their own time. It's their life. They get to choose how it is. They are grown adults most of the time. They can do what they need.
So to share with some of the things, I think what you're saying is absolutely spot on too. I know in addition to that, living in a mental health positive type home here, and understanding that, I know that there's some mental health aspects to this too, where it's not so simple, or not, I shouldn't say simple, where it's not just a matter of resources available to a person, but that there's a lot of physiological aspects that you can't account for, that for a normal person, it makes sense to get out of that situation. But for someone in some people who are in those domestic abuse, violent homes or whatever, there's been some physiological rewiring of the brain that it's kind of a reverse thing. When they get hurt, they feel love, and it doesn't make sense for normal people.
Or they grew up like that, and that's just what they know. But let me say this too. In our office, we are very aware of secondhand trauma. We can hear up to 6 protective orders a day. So that's 6 hours a day. You're listening to somebody describe the rape, describe how he hurt their kids, describe how she was hurt, you hear this all day. And there's no way that you're not affected by that.
Right.
So I'm all about, listen, if you can't handle this domestic violence victim, it's okay to step back. Still be supportive, but step back. But at the same time, can you traumatize them more because you can't handle it? I think we deal with that a lot too, is who knows what to do about domestic violence? Nobody knows. No. It's an individual assessment of the person.
And
go ahead.
What some victims need, I'm glad you can hear me because I've been struggling with this technology thing.
Welcome back, Justin.
You're welcome.
What some victims need is a lot different than what other victims need. Some need you to listen and just be there for them. Others need a strong hand and be like, we're going to go kick his ass and we're going to bring him to court.
That's me, Justin. I'm like, we're riding tonight. I mean, we're going to go kill somebody today.
That's me. I'm floating
Sandy,
around with Dick Punch Tuesday idea. I make t-shirts, some nice mask, and just go take care of some people.
Yes, because Earl had to die today.
Just Uber Eats, but a dick punch for your ex.
Yes. Oh my gosh, y'all are my people.
Y'all are encouraging her. Why?
So don't worry.
So here's Echo is saying, I heard a tip that said to start getting the 10, 20 extra at a grocery store to scroll away. And that's a great tip.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think that domestic violence victims, specifically women, sometimes are unable to leave because of money. And so you have to do what you have to do. I don't know how many women that have come in my office and they're like, he wouldn't let me get a job. Wouldn't let me get a job. Wouldn't let me do XYZ. Girl, I got a job behind his back. He works 12-hour days. I went and got me a 6-hour job. We're fine.
Yeah.
And she got out and she's proud of herself for having that job. And I'm like, go girl. She's like, but it's just McDonald's. Do you know what you had to do to get that McDonald's job? I've never been more proud in my life. I believe in you.
Awesome. I want to be like a pep, like, yes, girl, you can do it. Is there,
That's
are y'all hiring for cheerleaders?
Justin's the best cheerleader we've got. I mean,
Yes,
he's not on the
Justin.
uniform or anything anymore, but I feel like with enough prodding, he might put it on for the show.
Justin, do it. So Tammy wants to let you guys know this is such great information. CPJ says Amber grew up in a violent, heavy home. I feel like her brain, emotions, and default reactions have been fight or flight for 3+ decades, but that doesn't excuse behaviors that deserve consequences.
That's true. That's
You know,
true. So I've always felt like you can have both, right? Like you can feel very passionately about someone who you feel needs to have consequences for their actions. You can still give grace to them because of what they've gone to, but we live in a world where action has consequence, and if we don't
well,
have that, then we get anarchy.
let me say this. I think it is a big deal to keep your hands to yourself. We play around and we slap each other or, whatever. It's all in good fun. That's fine. But when you're angry and you lash out, how are you any better than an abuser?
Right.
Keep your damn hands to yourself. I feel like it's something we learned in kindergarten.
Right?
Or we didn't learn. We learned and we
So
didn't
No,
learn.
I appreciate my wife telling me it's a good thing to ask the kid. I have two daughters, and
Yeah.
so she, early on, it was one of those things where she was like, ask them. It's a good thing to ask them. Is it okay if I hug you? Is it okay if I pat your back, scratch your back? Whatever things, so that they know that they have regency over their bodies as they get
Well,
older.
and trauma response also is you can't just reach out and touch anybody anymore. You don't know what their trauma response is.
Mhm.
If I don't know you, I try really hard not to touch you if I don't have to, because I don't know. And if I do, I ask permission every time, because you don't know what somebody's been through. There's
You're
nothing.
right.
You don't know what a domestic violence survivor looks like. You don't know.
No, you're right.
So
And if I hadn't been so vocal, nobody would have ever have known, because everybody knows that I'm the shit talker, that I carry
Yeah.
my own, but nobody knows that I've ever been punched in the face by a man.
yeah, and
'Cause-
you have to deal with that in your own way.
I had a 15-year-old victim who, I swear to God, I thought he was an NFL linebacker when I saw him. He was that big. Like, I was like, that's not your kid. That's not him. Like, there's just no way.
Mhm.
But sure enough, it was.
And he was a
he was
victim
very
of
much a victim.
child abuse.
Mhm.
At 15, looking like a 6'9" linebacker.
Right, you're so right. It really doesn't matter what
You
a person
can't
looks
tell.
like.
You can't
For us in generalized speaking, for us to say they're not I can't believe they could ever be abused or they could ever let someone hurt them, and you're like, what are you talking about? Like, that world, visuals don't matter in that world.
Yeah.
It
So let me say
doesn't
this.
matter.
What I hope occurs from the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial in regards to domestic violence is, I hope that people see Johnny Depp and they're like, hey, I've been through that too. Never put my hands on a woman. She's hurt me. That's domestic violence. I should have gone forward. Or I can go forward if that's currently happening. That's what I hope would happen for domestic violence. I think, though, and all of my colleagues, we've had several discussions about the effects of this trial. It may put women victims a step back. That's what we're scared of.
Do you feel that way because, like, can you elaborate a little bit more behind
So
that?
public perception right now is Johnny Depp is the victim and that Amber Heard is a liar. I understand that. I'm not here to say one way or the other. I don't know. I don't think any of us really know.
Right.
Even though we've heard all this testimony and all these things. But the big thing is like, do you know how hard it is to get a female? Just to be honest with you, Hispanic females are the hardest ones to get in. And it's because their culture teaches them the husband is the head of the household. What he does, what he says goes. So when they come to me, they're like, but I'm his property.
Oh, fuck that.
Girl, no, you're not.
No.
You've got this. I'm right here beside you. We're going to go. But
I don't
now
know.
you have somebody who is perceiving to lie on the stand or lie about all these years about the domestic violence she suffered. Now it's going to be like, are you an Amber Heard or are you a real victim? Well, first off, we don't know.
Yeah.
But secondly, anytime you doubt a victim, it could push them back into that same situation they're trying to get out of.
What were
And
you
that's
gonna say,
conversations that we've had quite a bit though, Jamie, is we've gone back where like we feel like this is pushing women back. It's like you done took how many strides forward, and all these women are coming forward and telling you things that have happened in the past, and we're like, man, we believe you, we're with you, and then all of a sudden
Flips on the dime.
there's doubt that's cast, and you're just like, bro, you just said it's back, like how much? And so that's been a worry of ours as well, and when we've talked about it.
Another statistic is 4 out of 5 women will experience sexual assault or domestic violence in their lifetime. 4 out of 5.
The national average, I think I saw something like that, was like 1 in 4 experience it, or I guess it'd say 1 in 4 who experience it report it.
Yeah.
And then for men, it was like 1 in 7, 8, something like that.
But the statistics are high about women who will experience domestic violence or sexual assault.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Will this make it easier for them to report? I don't think so.
What were you going to say, Justin? You had a comment on that a minute ago.
I was just going to ask if y'all talked about it beforehand or not, but a lot of victims also believe they deserve the manipulation, the violence that's happening to them. Like they did something that caused them to be hit, and so they don't report it or they won't come forward because, I shouldn't have snapped at him like that, or I shouldn't have, I should have had dinner ready.
They deserved it.
Justin and I have had countless victims who come forward and they're like, well, I knew it was going to set him off, but I just had enough. So this is technically my fault. I'm sorry. Last time I checked, we're all adults who have control of our body and control of our hands. No, it's not your fault. So knock that shit right off.
Yeah, and I feel like that's from a bygone era, right? Like 50s, 60s mentality, and probably before. There's definitely that, like you're saying, the ownership type. I don't know that it's just limited to the Spanish speaking population,
about what
right?
we see right now is just
okay.
Really
so let me. I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but I'm not in Texas. I'm actually up here in Illinois.
Oh, okay.
So anyhow, just for reference, I hear what you're saying though. I get that. But I think, never mind. I already lost what I was going to say.
So while you think of that, here's what Carrie is saying. I hear what you're saying, Leah, but hear this perspective. I'm in a group chat where 3 gals are victims of domestic violence. We all 3 see Amber's BS. We feel she's exaggerating and lying and arrogant and all the things that aren't traditional of a true domestic violence. She fought back and provoked him way too much to be suppressed. What are your thoughts on that?
So there's not a defense for provoking somebody in the civil world. Has she done that? I don't know. I think we're hearing snippets of what the actual situation is. I don't want to go on live Facebook and say, oh my God, I 100% believe Johnny Depp. What a dick Amber Heard is. I think,
she did say.
To be honest with you, I don't believe her. That's not from my law experience. It's just what I've seen I don't like. I think there's a lot of things going on that, in my mind, I've never seen a victim do before. Not that it's not outside the bounds of what a victim would do. So I'm not saying you calling her, her BS and all that stuff on the stand. I feel the same way. However, if you discount her testimony, before, okay, so this happened in the Me Too movement, where all you had to do was make an allegation and it was true. And I think now that we're kind of out of the bounds of the Me Too movement, we're figuring out, hey, you can't just make an allegation without some kind of investigation going on. Had there been an investigation going on at the time, maybe this wouldn't have blown up like it is now, and there wouldn't be a defamation suit and everything would be live and let live. I can't say she's not a victim. That doesn't make me comfortable. I don't know.
Right.
I know now that Johnny Depp was a victim. Could they both be victims? Absolutely. You see that all the time in relationships.
Victims of each other's toxicity, for sure.
But you just don't know what the circumstances were.
So you're right on that. But here's what I would challenge with that, though, Leann, is you put it on display out there. You're opening it to the court of public opinion. And public is going to have their opinion, whether it's right or wrong, right? When we display it, because I'm with you. I went into this trial telling myself, I am going to be 100% impartial, and I feel like I've actually done a real well
Well, I
job.
was not impartial.
When I turn the feelings on, I feel like everyone else does, but I'm also
You lie.
with you on the whole. If I do that with her, then that means I have to discount everyone else, and I know that not everyone else is
And I'm
telling
not
a
gonna do that.
lie, or you know,
I can't do that. With my profession, I couldn't possibly do that. I'm not
right?
gonna count one for the other. Have I had clients who I think are 100% are just out for revenge and maybe did get hit, but maybe did the hitting as well? Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's a challenge. It's a constant challenge because you don't know who the narcissist is in the relationship. You're hearing one side. It's
See,
hard.
as a lawyer, it seems one of the things I appreciate you. 'Cause here's my thought on you guys is like you have to pick a side though. You're taking the case for someone. Like at some level, like yeah, we have to pick a side. Or we need people to represent our sides. Maybe put it that way better, right? And those people have to represent us 100% as though we do, because that's what's fair. It doesn't mean it's right or we can feel however we want it, but in this country with our constitution written the way it is, that is what we said everyone deserves regardless. Absolutely. And so
I think there are cases though that set off your I'm gonna whoop this motherfucker's ass person. So for example, I had a lady who came in today with a little baggie of her hair. He had torn her hair out. Tell me, in what reasonable situation is it okay to tear somebody's hair out?
None.
I don't know.
I mean, I can think of a few, but
no.
They're trying to kill you.
To tear somebody's hair out.
Trying to kill me. Got my hair tied up in the, those little things. Sandy, remember?
The bolitas. My mom put my hair out. Trauma.
But I'm telling
She's
you,
blasting her mom on here.
Little baggie of hair in. You're sitting there like, screw the court. Justin, get the shovel. We got one.
Oh my gosh.
That's kind of what we deal with is, what the hell was he doing pulling your hair out? Like, this is outside the bounds.
So,
Johnny Depp case, the Amber Heard case, I haven't seen anything that is, I don't know what the word, but heinous. Slapping, hitting, those are things we see every day in our profession. But like heinous where it actually shocks your Justin and I sometimes don't have a conscience anymore because of what we see every day. But there are still things that shock us. Still things that hurt my feelings, even though doing this job for 3 years. I haven't seen anything outside of quote unquote the ordinary in domestic violence situations in the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial.
So, guys, trigger warning. Okay, so this is something that's going on right now. So she specifically said that he took a bottle and put it into her vagina, and she did not realize whether that was broken bottle or not. Like, to me, she didn't go to the doctor for that. If I feel like I've been penetrated with a glass freaking bottle, like we're going to the damn doctor. Like we're going to figure this out because there's going to be some pain. And that to me, like it doesn't compute.
But let's talk about that. Because
if you go to...
That's you. You would definitely go to the doctor. That's common sense for you. That wouldn't be common sense for everybody.
And if you go to
no matter your social status. Sorry, Justin.
Talking about there's no damn way that I would sit there and get hit. To me,
if you go to the doctor, you have to talk about what happened. They're going to ask you questions. They're going to report it. There's going to be a police report. You're going to have to talk to the police. They might do a sanction on you. And you may not want to deal with all that. You just may want to roll over in bed and forget that ever happened. And that's okay. But just because somebody didn't go to the doctor or the hospital or make that police report doesn't mean it didn't happen.
But I feel like a damage of a broken glass bottle inside your vagina is going to do some serious freaking damage.
So let me say this. We had a lady, a high school student in an outlying county who was bagging groceries, got thrown into a car and raped. That's how she lost her virginity. She was raped.
Oh my God.
She did not go to the doctor. She couldn't do it. Have you ever been in a vaginal exam? I mean, Sandy, you and
They're bad enough as it is. A damn pap smear. Fuck. Oh, God, it's the worst.
Can you imagine having just had that done and then going and getting your body violated a 2nd time? I mean, that's second time
Another
shit.
rape. Yeah.
So I get it. I get not going. I get not doing that. I get it. Maybe not Amber Heard, but I think I just dislike her as a human being. So,
That's
but
why. That's probably why I'm harsh. Because to anybody else, like the situation where what you just mentioned, I'd have been poor baby, like
Yeah.
totally. Like I feel like I see Amber in a different light as I would a regular, a normal,
Yeah.
a me in that situation.
Right.
And that's maybe that's why I'm such a hard ass on that.
And so
I think
I'm not defending Amber by any stretch of the imagination. But what I'm saying is these talks that we're having, we've got to keep talking about it, because the difficult conversations are where, listen, you just said Amber Heard should have gone to the hospital. What about this girl? And you were like, oh, poor baby. Like, exactly. Every situation warrants a different response.
Right. Because I think in this situation, she's an actress. She is paid to make me believe some of the stuff that she does, which is fine and all well, but I can't believe the stuff that she's saying on the stand. Now, you tell me about this case, we're taking this baby wherever it is that we need to go. And that's what I've told Jamie from the get-go. It's different. It's a different feeling knowing that this happened to this child that you mentioned. Like, that breaks my heart. Like, I can't even imagine. We would sit there and cry together. Like, there would be no hate, there would be no judgment for her not going, because I can comprehend how scared she would be. Like, that level, like, it's totally different. But her situation, you have all the money in the world, you have so many people that you can pay to not say anything in your situation.
That's not enough. It bugs me when I hear that, because
You be quiet.
you're thinking again with your, like, you're projecting your thoughts on this, and just like what Leann said at the beginning, you can't
But let
no
me say this.
situation. You can't say there's a normal way to it.
But let me say this. The Johnny Depp Amber Heard is not real life domestic violence. Sure, there could be domestic violence in that situation. Absolutely. Not denying that. What I'm saying is that's not what us everyday people deal with.
Right.
We
Right.
are in a domestic violence situation, a sexual assault situation. We don't get to sit there with millions of dollars being able to get in a hotel room, get away from your abuser, do everything like that. But also, we don't get $1 million publicist to spin this trial in our favor. What we get is heartbreaking,
Yes.
true life, people who can't afford to feed their kids, so they're not going to leave that man. That's what
Sure.
that's a really big one.
The Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial is not domestic violence in my mind. Is it a domestic violence? Absolutely, it is. But it's not what we deal with every day.
And I understand that. That makes sense. I get in the world that you're coming from, those are not the cases and the stories and the people that you're dealing with. But looking at their case, what's going to end up happening is that's going to be a situation that's going to be applied to all domestic violence.
So
It's
here's
true and accurate, it's not.
So-
But that's what's going to happen.
Yes and no. Legally, it's a defamation case, and so it's not going to have any
Right.
precedent over domestic violence going
It's
forward.
not.
It's just,
But I think it
but
has
the
turned
public
into
opinion,
national
though,
domestic
is going to,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Right.
it's attention nationally. The public opinion towards things is going to have an effect, very widespread.
Is that him or me?
Huh. So Carrie is saying, I feel like Camille, Chu, and the other lawyers wouldn't embrace him, choose to touch him, or lean into him. I can see I have a job to do, but physical touch that they are starting, I don't see a person, especially a lawyer, choosing to embrace a sexually violent or domestic violent abuser. What are your thoughts on that?
Girl, you
I don't
pay me $3
embrace
million.
my
I'll hug
clients.
you, kiss you. What do you need?
Yeah,
And-
that's just that's fair.
What do you need
I
from
was
me?
gonna
I
s-
got you. Anything short of sex.
Well, no, I'm totally
$3
kidding.
million? Come on.
Okay, so we've been super heavy on female as victims, but what about males as victims? Like, is law enforcement trained to pick up on a male victim? Would you say that?
So I don't think we can really talk about their training towards domestic violence. But males are extremely less likely to report or to say anything at all. Like just the no, she didn't hit me. I'm a guy. I'm too tough for this. It's whatever else. Like no, I'm fine. Like I tripped or I gripped the glass bottle too hard, hurt my hand, whatever it may be.
Generally,
Um,
what we see is she's going to hurt the kids. She knows I'll take it. It's not a big deal. But when she starts going after the kids, that's when he comes in. Or she starts trying to take the kids, that's when he'll come in.
yeah.
So
I don't think I've had a male client come in for himself other than just he thinks someone else is going to get hurt.
Real quick, back to the question. I didn't mean to make light of it as much as I did, but you don't know what somebody else is thinking. They might 100% believe him. As their attorneys, that's what they have to do in order to be able to represent him in my mind. So them hugging him, showing him affection, liking him because he's a good guy, I don't think that proves his guilt or innocence in any means. So just answering that real quick. For the male question, a statistics we found.
Hold on, Leah. I'm going to echo you on the same side. Amber Heard's attorneys not embracing her, being as lovey-dovey with her. It's a professional client relationship too. They just may not be as close. Doesn't mean anything one way or the other as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
As for the statistics on the male, the Texas Council on Family Violence has found that like 192 women died at the hands of their abuser in 2020. 5 men died at the hands of their abuser in 2020. That was reported, right? So we still don't know the actual numbers. We may never know. But I think, my boss says this all the time. Our boss says this all the time. Domestic violence is nowhere near where it needs to be in the law or anywhere else. But it's getting better. So we've seen more in the past week of just, well, the police can't figure it out, so they're going to take them both and let the court sort it out.
Okay.
Because they can't tell who the real victim is. What I liked about the Amber Heard trial was them playing that audio about, you know, who's going to believe you, Johnny? Who's going to believe you? What judge or jury is going to believe that you're a victim of domestic violence? Well, I think there's a lot more than there was 10 years ago of people who would believe that men are victims of domestic violence. So are we there? Absolutely not. Is there tons of work to be done? Absolutely. Is it getting better? Slowly. I don't know that anything will improve until men are ready to admit that they can be victims of domestic violence.
And I think that has to change. That has to come from us. That has to come from us saying, you know, we're not sissifying men. We're just letting them, you know, speak and know that, you know, it's okay to be it's not okay, but it's like okay to come forward and say, hey, she hit me, you know, and I didn't lay my hands on her. And, you know, it's just, I don't know. I just feel like one thing that when I was doing my research and getting ready for this is I really thought like Johnny Depp's like the first guy that's ever come forward. But a guy that didn't come forward was Phil Hartman. And I don't know if you guys know of him. He's like before our time.
His wife shot him and then killed herself.
In between the eyes while he was laying down because he used to pretend to be asleep to avoid fights with her. And that just blew my mind because he was famous. He did like SNL stuff. Like again, what I said, like before our time stuff. But man, he was a victim of domestic violence, and his friends knew that potentially that could happen. And so it just makes me feel bad that men feel that the way that they do because of the societal norms that we put on men.
Right.
So, let's see. Carrie says, it's like Jada and Will. You can't tell me she hasn't slapped that man into her control.
I mean, I wouldn't know. I'm going to be honest. I'm not trying to judge other people. I'm just telling you.
I believe him if he came forward.
Right. Yeah. She says, have either of you represented a male victim? Sorry if I missed that answer.
Yeah.
Yes. Most of the time when we represent men, though, I have to say at least half of the time it's as next of friend for their children. And what that means in legal terms is children cannot be named in a suit, So it has to be a parent as next of friend to the child. And that's how we go for protective orders. So
It means
Justin,
they're filing on behalf of the child.
Oh,
yes,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Justin and I have both done protective orders for men protecting their children from abusive mothers. We've also done independent, very few, but we've done independent protective orders for men against their partner. And some of those are gay individuals or homosexual individuals, some of those are heterosexual individuals. I mean, we don't discriminate. If you need a protective order, we got you. But we see it, it's just not as common.
Gotcha.
And
So,
even when we do the men for them against their partner, usually it's somebody else was put in danger the last time they came in, and that's why they come in. Or at least my last couple were.
so do you see embarrassment as shame as to when they don't come forward, or is it more man-up feelings that keep from coming?
I promise
When
you,
they-
across the board, everybody feels embarrassment and shame coming forward.
Gotcha.
You would think men would feel more embarrassment and shame than women, but I promise you, I can't qualify anybody's feelings, but you see it in every single situation.
Even when it hasn't risen to the point of domestic hands-on physical violence, it's just leading up to that point. It's like him harassing, calling, or being annoying, kind of stalkerish, whatever. We'll still see that embarrassment and shame thing, like they did something wrong to invite or encourage that behavior. And it's not you. It's very much the narcissistic, manipulative other person who's trying to force their will or whatever else on you.
One thing I say to my clients all the time is him hurting you says more about him than it will ever say about you.
True.
You have this bad self-esteem and this, low opinion of yourself, but I promise you it's about him. It's not about you. You just
Gotcha.
survive.
All right, guys. So I want to be respectful of your time. If you guys want to tell us a little bit more about the Legal Aid Society of Lubbock, where we can donate, where we can find more information, where if people want to file and help get protective orders, and if you guys want to give us a little bit of that information, that way we can go ahead and wrap up, guys, and just make everybody aware that that there are resources available, whether you're male or female. There are things out there, especially here in Lubbock County.
And it's free.
LegalAidofLubbock.org is our website. Even if you're not in Texas, if you shoot us an email or just like, where can I get domestic violence assistance in my area? I promise you, we will do our best to find you something or reach out to somebody who can help you. It's kind of outside of our purview because, we're Texas attorneys, but I promise you, you reach out, you take the first step. I'll do everything in my power, and I'm sure my office would back me on this to get you somewhere where you can get some help.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, guys, I appreciate you so much coming on here. We may have to do a continuance to have some more questions and answers. You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for your time. And Jamie, do you have anything to add to it? Nope. All right. So, Michael, thank you so much. He has put the address website on here. Appreciate you, Michael.
Hi,
And
Michael.
Justin said it is free. Please highlight that. So it's like a sliding scale, right? Or is it free all the way?
Everything we do in our office is free.
The offer is free. Most in the state of Texas, if you go for a protective order, the statute says that the abuser has to pay the protective order fees. But I would assume that most states have similar statutes because domestic violence has become such a prevalent problem in almost every state. So I can't promise it's free in other states, but we'll do our best to find you something that's definitely affordable, definitely something you can get behind, because there are federal funds that are given to organizations that help domestic violence victims. So I would
Awesome.
assume.
Okay.
On that federal fund, the Crime Victims Coalition, at least for Texas, and every state has a version of this. If you're a victim of a violent crime, they will reimburse you for medical costs and things like that if you apply and go forward. Even if you don't want to go forward with this civilly, so you can apply for those things as well.
Awesome. Good to know. So Dahlia says, thank you, Leann and Justin. Sandy, thank you for bringing awareness. And thank you guys. I mean, you guys are just a wealth of information. I'm only a Facebook accredited attorney, and a Facebook accredited private investigator. It's what I do. But anyway, I appreciate your time so much. Hang out with me just a second. We're going to go ahead and end this, and then I'll be right with you guys, okay?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
good night,
Thanks for
everybody.
having
Thanks
us.
for tuning in.
Thank
yes,
you for
thank
having
you.
us on.
Good night, everyone.
Y'all have a